What is the #1 DPS killer for any build in any game? Reloading. Reloading causes you to stop shooting, meaning you're not dealing damage, and the more time you spend reloading means the less time you spend melting. What if I told you you never ever have to manually reload again while dishing out incredible single target damage and absurd AoE damage? At the beginning of Phase 2, I put out a 500k damage in 30 seconds video, while towards the end of Phase 3, we're dishing out 2 million damage in 30 seconds. GetBuck here, and today let's revisit my Frost Vortex build, Perfected. Like I said, 2 weeks ago I put out a Frost Vortex video titled 500k damage in 30 seconds. This build was nuts at the start of Phase 2, and now that we're about to enter Phase 4, I think I've perfected it. And this entire build will cost you only 9,000 Starcrom, meaning you can make this build early on and spend the rest of the season min-maxing it. With all that said, let's get into it, starting with your weapon, and that is going to be the SMG Icy Rain. For those that don't know, the Icy Rain has a 40% chance to trigger Frost Vortex on a critical hit. When Frost Vortex is created, 15% of your magazine is auto-loaded and you gain +1 to Frost Vortex. For your calibration, you are going to go with the heavy style SMG print for an increase in magazine size at the cost of reload speed. Your reload speed could be 0 on this and it would not matter, as you will never be manually reloading. My calibration also comes with elemental damage and crit rate for the best of both worlds. You could also stack double crit or double elemental damage here as well. Your Icy Rain mod will be Shattering Ice for general mobbing and ad clear. When an enemy at the center of the Frost Vortex is defeated, deal 50% PSI intensity ice damage to enemies within 1 meter. For bossing, you can use either Cryoblast or Vortex Multiplier. For your mod attributes, you're going to want things like elemental damage, damage to great ones, magazine capacity, damage to elites, etc. Now that we have our weapon set up, let's get into the gear, starting with our key item, and that will be the Frost Tactical Vest. The Frost Tactical Vest creates ice spikes upon dealing Frost Vortex damage. Very good for breezing through boss DPS. I tried the other 2 key chests for the Frost builds, not as good. Trust in Frost Tactical Vest. For the rest of the gear, we will be stacking crits, and more crits. This SMG deals Frost Vortex damage and auto-loads itself when you crit, so you want to crit as much as possible. With that said, our 2-piece is going to be the Heavy Duty Gearset, which gives us +10% max HP and +8% elemental damage. Your 3-piece Gearset will be Lone Wolf, which grants us 10% magazine capacity, 5% extra crit rate, and get 1 stack of Lone Shadow with every 2 weapon critical hits. Lone Shadow grants 6% crit damage for 30 seconds, and this effect can stack up to 8 times. With all of our gear lined up, it's time to mod it, starting with the helmet, and that is going to be Elemental Havoc. Elemental damage +10%, and when your HP is above 90%, gain an additional 10% damage. Your mask will be Lingering Frost. The longer the duration of Frost Vortex, the higher the damage of Frost Vortex, up to 60%. Gloves will be Crit Boost +15% to crit rate. You can also use Crit Amplifier here instead. Bonus if you get the Talents version of either of them. Shoes are going to be Slow and Steady, +10% to melee weapon and status damage, and when your HP is above 90%, gain an additional 10% to all. Your chest will be a Blue Crit Damage Enhancement Violent mod. And lastly, your pants will be Deadshot. Each crit hit by a non-melee weapon grants 5% critical hit damage up to 45%. Your melee weapon is 100% going to be the Frozen Northern Pike Melee. Your shoulder charge attacks will guarantee activate Frost Vortex, freezing enemies in their place, and restores 5% of your HP at the cost of 2 stamina. Your secondary weapon will be the Recurve Bow with the mod Vulnerability Amplifier. Activating Bullseye grants 8% vulnerability. As for your Deviant, if you want to up your DPS, you can go with the Polar Jelly, and if you're looking for the more survivability route, you can go with the Festering Gel. If you like this video, don't forget to drop a heart, subscribe, and turn those notifications on. See you next time.